All right, are we ready? Is Wes on there? Because Wes was gonna pop on.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
I am.
Okay, so good morning. Wes Covert is here from Next App and he has some good info to talk to us about. So take it away, Wes.
Morning, guys. Everybody's probably heard about the lower interest rates. It's been the hot topic going for the last, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 days, maybe week. And there's a couple of things to be aware of. They're talking about the Fed hikes coming in September. They're also talking about an inter-meeting potentially where they're just going to have an emergency meeting and cut rates. I'll tell you that those hikes are already built into the rates. And so I think it's kind of our job to maybe have conversations with customers, borrowers, clients, whatever you call them, and remind them that the day that this happens, that the Fed cuts, sometimes we actually see an inverse reaction to interest rates because it's already built in, right? So it's one of those things where people have to be prepared in advance. The economics of these rate cuts are already built into today's interest rates. That's why they're so low. So probably a good talking point. It gives you a reason to call the buyers for the last year. They're trying to hang on. They're waiting for lower interest rates. FHA rates are pricing in the 4s. Conventional rates are pricing in the 5s. So I know everybody was on a date the rate, marry the home type of a campaign 8 months ago. That campaign should be over, and your new message should be like, hey, you don't have to date anymore. The rates are low. So maybe a new campaign that everybody can jump on, but certainly a talking point for your customers. It's hard to explain the impact of the forecast of the interest rates because people don't necessarily understand how the economics of that market works. But if they're waiting for the Fed to actually cut, it may be too late, right? It may be not too late in that they can't still get a good rate, but we may see rates go up for a little bit depending on the economic reports between now and then. So just know that it's not just going to be a drastic downfall of interest rates. We probably don't have a lot of room lower at this point. Maybe 1/4 to 3/8% at best. So just keep maybe the customer's mindset in reality, right? Like we're not going to see rates in the 3s next month. It's just not going to happen. So try to temper their expectations a little bit and have those conversations. And if it's something that they want a more advanced conversation, I'm certainly willing to have that with them. But they need to be prepared that it's most time interest rates are or the rumor mill does affect rates prior to the actual events happening. So anyway, that's something that you guys need to want to be prepared for. Any questions about any of that?
You ever think, Wes, we're gonna see rates in the 3s again? I don't think we are.
Not without a major economic impact. Like, we had COVID before, government shutdowns and things like that, artificially low rates. We have one or at least maybe 2 wars going on at this point. Not that we're actually involved in, but there are instabilities globally, and we're still not really seeing lower interest rates, right? And so probably not. Nobody really knows, but it would take a major economic event to really get rates into the 3s, like something that we probably don't want to see. That we all know from before that that's unhealthy anyway.
Right.
That's just a source of frustration for everybody. So I don't think that that's something to wish for.
Right.
To maintain a healthy market.
And don't you think, Wes, I mean, the time that you and I have been in the industry, that was the only time we saw rates that low, right? I've never remember seeing rates like that ever.
There was one other time in like 2002, 2003. But it was very, very short. It was like a couple of weeks, and then it went back the other way. So
oh yeah, I had only been licensed 2 years, so I was probably working on my database or something.
exactly. but it was very short. And by the time people, the news got it out that, hey, rates are, in the twos, it was already over. It was too late.
Okay, Sharice has a question. Wes, go ahead, Sharice.
Yeah.
So what do you mean when you say that the rates are being artificially adjusted? I don't really understand.
Artificially,
Uh-huh.
like from 2020, 2022.
But why, yeah, like why?
She doesn't understand what that term means.
Oh,
When you're saying
so-
artificially adjusted, what do you mean by that?
It just means that during COVID, the government basically eliminated the interest rates. Like they dropped the Fed funds rate to zero, right? Because they wanted to supplement or subsidize the economy. And the only reason they did it is because there was no economy, right? Then nothing was happening, everything was shut down. So the government basically created these low rates. Artificially
Right.
meaning that
To drive the economy.
Yes,
Yeah.
a stimulus.
So it wasn't organically done. It
wasn't.
It was forced.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, that's like one.
Yeah, I mean, they were real for a long time, but it wasn't, the government basically didn't have anything else to do. Like they were in a situation where, the economy was tanking and everything was shut down. So they didn't have a choice. But we're unlikely to see anything like that again, even if something like COVID happened again. I don't even think you would see the same results that we saw before. It was just, too
And
much.
so buyers need to understand, that's a conversation, because
For
my
sure.
buyers do ask, oh, when do you think interest rates are gonna go down? I'm like, never to 3, probably never. I would think, oh, never. And if it does happen, you're screwed anyway, because then a million people are gonna flood in the market. Prices are gonna go up. You're gonna have to have appraisal gap guarantees. It's gonna be a problem. It's the market right now, it's not that bad for buyers. You can get in, you
Yeah.
can do a little negotiating. If interest rates drop, prices go up. And because the pool of buyers expands drastically, because there are
Yeah.
people waiting for that. And then they're gonna realize, shit, I should have bought when it was a little higher and I could, and then just refi when this happened. If you're waiting to buy for rates to drop, we've gone over this before too. The money you're wasting while you're renting and waiting. And then it's a crazy market and you better have some cash behind you, because you're gonna have to do appraisal gap guarantees and all that business.
And a lot of them too,
I wouldn't-
like visual, to tell the buyers, here's a visual of if you go bought it like 2 years ago, or what
Right.
is it now?
Right.
So, and then I do the visual too, like properties that I sold, it's like within a year, this is how much equity this property has. Would you like to, wait another year that you're gonna lose all this
Right.
equity? And it's going up every year, so. It's a visual, it's actually some of the clients really like the visual.
Yeah, and it finally
Yeah.
clicks with them.
But yeah.
But the probably the main takeaway from this is consumers don't understand that the rates are already built in. They're going to want to make contact when the Fed actually lowers rates, and by then it's too late. The rates are low now because the market anticipates 75 basis points cut. If the Fed comes in September and only cuts 25 or only cuts 50, you'll probably see rates go up. So there's a lot that can happen, and that's why I don't. I hate the idea that the Fed cuts are so publicized, because the consumer wants, if the Fed cuts 75 basis points, the consumer wants that reduced from the rate, and it's just not how the way it works, unfortunately. So there's a lot of education that needs to be put out to the public about that, and it's very difficult to have that conversation because nobody understands it.
So I was wondering, I'm Brandon. I was wondering for FHA, we're in the 4s, for conventional, we're in the 5s. I'm just wondering, like, does this last long? Do we anticipate like this to last a while, or is there any anticipation at all?
Maybe, and we saw the lowest point of rates on Friday. Monday, Tuesday, and certainly today, we actually saw the rates all go up every day. Now, when they go up, they're not jumping up. It's very, very small ticks. But it kind of it kind of resets itself. And when you see it start to go sideways, which I think we'll probably start to see until we get more economic reporting or until the next Fed meeting, it's hard to say. Every day that a new economic report comes out could create volatility for rates. And we just don't know the impact of those economic reports. So right now we're sideways, meaning that there's not a big jump up and there's not a low drop down either. But you can't really say. It's really going to depend on all the economic reports. I think that if you look, it's easier to forecast going like 6 months forward, looking forward 6 months. Rates are probably lower than they are today. But we have an election coming up. That's certainly going to have an impact on rates at this point, just because of where inflation, the recession talk and all of that stuff is. Policies for each side are going to have an impact on rate forecasts. So I think we'll probably be sideways for a little bit. We have a new low point, and I just think it's a great opportunity for customers to take advantage of it right now. And rather than waiting 6 months or 8 months, 12 months for rates to really have that next drop down, I just think it's going to be sideways.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Okay, anybody else have any questions for Wes?
One more thing to think about, because I know that the NAR thing is kind of a hot topic right now. There's more guidance on it. I'm certainly not an expert, and I'm not even going to talk about it. But what I will tell you is utilize your lenders as part of the conversation when you're going to have to start negotiating fees, right? There's a lot of room on the lender side to work some magic there to make sure that the borrower has extra funds to pay you guys, because you're going to want to get paid for your services. So don't just rely on the selling agent. Don't rely on the seller. Don't even rely on your buyer, because a lot of times they don't have money. Use the lender. Use all four sources. Use them all, and just kind of get creative with what you're going to have to do to still generate income on being a buyer's agent. I know there's a lot of you that are buyer's agents. So utilize all of those resources. Don't just look at one avenue to try to get paid. Look at all of them.
Okay, and that's perfect, Wes, because next week we're training on the listing presentation as well as the listing agreement. The week after, our training is the buyer broker agreement, purchase agreement, and the conversation with your buyers. Maybe you could be here. I know you do something else every other week. That would be back every other week if you could come back and join us, because you could have some input on when we're doing that with buyers. But that's not next week, it's the week after.
Okay. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
All right. Take it away.
Okay. So 4DX. Is there anybody who's actually doing it?
Hi, girl.
What's that?
You have to read it, but you're doing the activities. Are you doing the activities Sarah's been saying?
I don't care if you read the book. You're doing it.
The activities.
So the activities. So I'm going to do a review over 4DX and why it's important. Guys, I know I harp a lot on database, sphere of influence, but this all rolls back into atomic habits, the 7 levels of communication, and 4DX. They all go together. So you have a business, right? I mean, you guys consider what you do as real estate agents a business, right? It is a business. It costs us money to start it up, right? We had to pay for our trainings, to take the test, our MLS, our board dues, everything we do as a business. So why don't, I guess my question to you guys, I don't understand why you're not doing it. Like seriously, I just don't understand. Because if you have a business, why aren't you running it like a business? So if you had a restaurant, right? Wouldn't you plan out what you're gonna serve? And wouldn't you figure out what your marketing is gonna be for your restaurant and figure out what your pricing is? And if there was issues, wouldn't you wanna know how to correct them? Would you just like have a staff of people and just go, we have a restaurant, here you go, just good luck, let's see how this goes, right? Well, that's what happens when you're not strategically running your business, right? Which is what 4DX is about. So the 4 disciplines, the first was choose your wig, which is your wildly important goal. And there's still time for you guys to do this. Like, it doesn't mean you have to start it with me. You can start it. When you read 4DX, sure, it's really directed towards more like a team leader, and not necessarily in the real estate world, but in any business, like if you had a staff or you were a leader. But it doesn't mean that we can't run it as an individual, right? So I set what my wildly important goal was, and your wildly important goal has got to be just that, a very important goal. It's not your whirlwind, right? The whirlwind that goes on daily is working on escrows, showing property, writing contracts, writing listings, looking at properties, comping things out. Those are our everyday duties, right? Those are everyday whirlwind, very important. Not saying they're not, you gotta do them. But what you've gotta do to grow your business is pull something out that you are giving focused laser attention to, right? That's what your wig is. Focused laser attention on that. So it's to pick one out, for instance, and everybody, I kind of feel like everybody in real estate is going to be very similar. But you may have your own, it's going to be different. I know Sharice is the deals, right? The amount of deals you're doing. And Jim's was, I can't remember. I think Jim's was deals. Cindy's was the same thing. It's all about deals. It's about income. Chris's is income. Mine, okay, so I'll tell you mine. So you need to have a start, a finish, and what it is. So mine is in 2023, I downtown had 22 capping agents, 22 agents capped. My wig is by 2025 of December, I will have 50 agents who cap. Okay. So there's my way. You just gotta figure out what yours is, and it's gonna be personal to you. It doesn't have to be what I'm doing. It could be, I want to double my transactions, but you need to say, I did 10 transactions in 2023. I want to do 20 transactions in 2025 or whatever it is. So you need to name it and do a start and a finish. Okay. So that's what you do for your wig. And if you guys have questions about how to determine a wig, I will help you with that, because sometimes people want what they're doing. The lead measures are what you do. Those are the tasks that you do to achieve that goal. So basically you have your whirlwind, you figure out what your wig is, your whirlwind is still going, right? It's still going, but you figure out what that is. And then you have your lead measures. Lead measures are the tasks that you're doing to get to that goal. So like with Sharice, I've got Sharice, Cindy, and Jim that I'm holding responsible, or we're being accountable to one another. So I know what their goals are. And so when I text them, we do a group text. How did it go? Well, I did this, this, and this. And you're not always going to make your goals, but it's something you do. And it's super important to figure out, what do I have to do to meet those goals? And then those are the activities that you are going to schedule into your calendar. So we pull calendaring in, right? And a little bit of atomic habits, right? Small changes, small changes. We're not, look, a lot of people want to do a yearly goal. So here's my yearly goal. And here's all the things that I'm going to do for the whole year. And it incorporates all their whirlwind and everything. And by the time you do a task for every single thing, it's too much. People don't do it. That's why 4DX works, because you're working on one thing at a time. Just one. So I know what my one important goal is. I'm going to get that goal going. I'm going to put it back in my whirlwind, and I'm gonna pull something else out, right? So you've got to just laser focus on one important goal, not 20, one, and then determine what the lead measures are. And sometimes the lead measures you don't want to do, but you've got to figure out, like, it doesn't have to be something, well, I'm gonna use Sharice because she knows I'm gonna use this probably. So when we were talking about this, Sharice goes, so what you're saying is, because, we talked about calls, like to get, if you want 50 more deals, you've got to have how many more appointments, which means you've got to make X amount of calls, right? To get, because the conversion rate is for cold calling, it's 1 out of 50 that you'll even get an appointment. And that's not even getting a lead. I mean, that's not getting just a phone call, just an agreement to talk. That doesn't mean you're gonna get the listing. It's 1 out of 25 in your sphere of influence. So when we were talking about it, Therese goes, what you're telling me then is I need to make more cold calls. And I'm like, that's absolutely not what I'm telling you. I'm telling you that what you need to do is work on your sphere of influence. But Therese is honest and she's like, I don't want to see, it's uncomfortable to call people that I know. And Therese is not the only one that said that. Maria's saying that. Jim Carson said that. It is so uncomfortable to call people that you know. But what I'm telling you is, make it comfortable. So I get uncomfortable too. Believe me, I'm not gonna call somebody, I'm not comfortable calling somebody I haven't talked to for 2 years and going, hey, do you want to sell your house? They're gonna be like, wait for me, weirdo, no, I don't want to sell my house, but you gotta come up with something. So like yesterday, I did the whole, and it's so easy, the whole, I'm updating my database. I said, hi, Chris, how you been? Hope you're having a great summer. What email are you currently using? I'm just making sure my database is correct. He goes, hey, Sarah, everything's going great. How are you? Good. This is what I'm using. Thanks so much. Talk to you later. Right? The last thing I want you guys to do is talk about real estate unless they bring it up. Let them bring it up. But don't go in asking for the real estate unless you feel comfy with it and you can't. It might be somebody that you haven't done business with for a long time, like an investor. I call my investor like, hey, what's going on? He's like, not much. I go, we haven't done anything for a long time. What are you looking for? Right? That's okay. Because that's the kind of relationship that we have. But you've got to find a conversation that you can have with each party, and it may not be the same for everyone, that you can feel comfortable with enough to do it consistently. Right? You got to consistently do it. So you need to determine what your lead measures are. So mine for my agent capping is I'm trying to do effective trainings that help you guys to be able to produce more, right? So it helps you and it helps me. And I'm also working on bringing in producing agents from other brokerages. Right? So how do I do that? Well, there's things I do a call with when you're in an escrow with them. I comment on Facebook. I make sure I friend them. When I was not a broker, I used to never friend other real estate agents. I'm like, I don't see what I'm doing. But now my mindset is different, right? So I do friend all the other ones so they can see how wonderful we are downtown and what we do. And I want them to see that. So those are some of my lead measures that I'm doing on a daily basis. And the next thing I did was come up with a schedule of what I'm doing. So I have poor Jackie. Oh, I think I left it at home. I did. But poor Jackie has to come up with some sheet that I dream up out of my mind and scribble on a piece of paper.
It was easy because I already had one done for me, similar.
Right. And so Jackie gets like, so I have, it's very simple. It's just a square. I have columns that go down and it goes across. I put the date and I put 2 client calls, 2 agent calls, 2 notes to client, one-on-one weekly with agents, whatever it is I'm doing, it's on there. And then I go through and check it off. Because what goes along with naming your wig, doing your lead measures is tracking it. Because if you don't track it, you don't know, right? So I was thinking about this because, so I know when I go to the gym, I have it, and again, it comes back to calendaring. I put it in my calendar. I book the week before. This is when I'm going to the gym, right? And then I track my sleep, so I know how I sleep. And I also know how many calories I burned that this compost showed up somehow in the app, like magic. And then I know, so I don't set my training schedule because my trainer does. So he's part of my team, right? He helps me. He sets that, so I don't have to think about that. But I do what he says, so I'm following along with what he says. But my food, because we all know, right, going to the gym's part of it, but the food is the most important. So I am on my fitness pal and I put in every single thing I eat. And at the end of the day, it shows me all, not just calories, but nutrients. So I can see like, oh, I had 120 grams of protein today. I had this many carbs, I had this many fat. Well, I can go back on a month and I can see what I ate for the month, and then I can weigh myself, right? So by keeping track of what I did, I see how the effects of what I did. That's what I want you guys to do with 4DX. Measure it. So you've got to keep some sort of a scoreboard so that you can see, because if you don't know, because you could guess, well, I think I made 100 calls last month, but you don't know. But if you track it, you can say, look, I got this much response. You can see where the leads came from, what went well for you, what didn't, and then adjust. It's not about doing the lead measures and keeping them stagnant. It's about getting them and making them where they're good, and then doing them consistently and then putting it back in your whirlwind, right? Because Sharice is gonna make a habit of this, like she knows. So Sharice found out, because Sharice was DMing people at the start, right? You were heavy with DMing and not as much with calling. And now you switched it, right? And what is the most productive for you? Calls, right? And have you got appointments out of it? And we've been doing it a week, right? Jim Carson, he's like night and day for him. I wish Jim was here, but he had to take his father-in-law down south. But Jim, I'm gonna have Jim give a little testimonial because he's been doing this, and Jim, like, he wanted to fight me on it, right? Not physically, but he was like, we're in a fight.
Different opinion.
Yeah, he's like, I don't want to be that salesy guy. That's what I don't want to be that agent. And I'm like, then don't talk about real estate, talk about something else. And he said that, so he's been doing it. So he got his database. He went from 0. He's got like 235 people in his database. He's more than me. Like I have 197, I think, right now. He's more than me. And he's calling these people and it's working. And he realized it, like he goes, I'm calling people and I'm getting appointments. He called the guy. He just checked in on him. Hey, I haven't talked to you for a while. How's it going? Chatted with him a little bit. He goes, hey, you know, I sell real estate. He said, and he brought it up. He said, but you know, if you ever want to buy or sell, if you know anybody, just send them my way. It was very like at the end of the conversation, not the lead, but the end of it. And the guy goes, yeah, of course. 20 minutes later, the guy called Jim back. He goes, hey, can we talk? Now he's got a lead. Now they've got an appointment. So that's why it's so important. It's not because, you know, and I have to hold myself accountable too, because I see the progress when I'm doing the scoreboard. I don't expect you guys to do what I'm not doing. I'm doing it too. But everybody's is going to be a little different. You know, Rebecca does a lot with Facebook, with social media. She gets a very good response off of that. That's part of what she does. You've got to find what you're going to do consistently and do it and make it part of your routine and then put it back into your whirlwind. Choose an accountability partner. So right now I'm doing Jim and Sharice and Cindy. So I'm kind of at my limit. But once we get going with what we're going, I'm willing to take 3 more people. But why wait for me? Find somebody else. Jackie, you've got your accountability partner, right?
Yeah, I put I fired Brittany because she didn't call me on Friday. I said,
So Brittany got fired.
So,
So-
and so I rehired Missy and Letty because they're good at holding themselves to their calendars. So I put them in the group text. And so Sunday night, Missy asked me, what are we targeting first? And I told her my calendar. I gotta turn in my calendar. Like, if I don't turn it into someone, I let it slip. And that is where the core fundamentals, I am most successful when I'm actually following it. So Missy said, what are we gonna do? I told her, 9:30 AM, I gotta turn it into. So Monday at 9:45, she called me because I don't have it, but I'm in front of an agent. So I answer, I'm like, I'm with so-and-so right now, but I'll send it right after. Yeah, then Letty came in on Monday, she's like, oh yeah, I didn't rope you in, but we're gonna be doing this. She's like, okay. Tuesday, it wasn't 9:30, but it was by 10 AM, they both had my calendar.
Right.
Today, they had it at 9.
See, so Brittany got fired. Sorry. But,
Okay.
but she brought Misty in because Misty is gonna hold her to it, right? Misty's like, yeah, and it's not about being mean.
Mhm.
So with Jim, it was funny with Jim Carson, because I'd say, what is your goal? Like, what are your lead measures? Not your goals, your lead measures. And he's like, well, I'm gonna do 3 to 5 calls a day. And I go, no, it is 3 to 5. It's 3 or it's 5. It's not 3 to 5. And so I told it, and I said, so we're going with 5. He was like, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm gonna do the lower number. So I made her go to 5. You're not always gonna make it. And it's not when I call, like I've called before, like with Sheree, she's like, I didn't have a very good day. It's okay. Do you have any downtime this week? Yeah, I do on Friday. You can make it up on Friday. And she made all kinds of calls. Not that you're in trouble. Nobody's holding you. It's more like being a cheerleader, like, yeah, you had a great week, or what can you do? How could we overcome that failing? And honestly, because this 4DX system, they use it, it's very successful. It's been around for years. They use it with all different businesses. It's not real estate related, really. I mean, it can be, but it's the difference between success and failure if you do the scoreboard. If you don't, you're gonna come up with the ideas and then it's just, you're gonna leave this room and you're not gonna do it, right? You're not gonna do it. You won't. I promise you, you won't. Because we always take the easy route, right? As humans, we want the easy route. We want the path of least resistance. So we want that business just to come to us. And if that's how you want your business to be, that's up to you. If it's like, yeah, I just get them when they come. I just want to work with family and friends. That's great. But if that's not but you better be having a really hard talk with yourself, because if that's not really what you want, then you need to be doing something like this to get to that next level. But, and everybody's afraid, and we don't want to do like the fear. You got to figure out what is the fear that is associated. Why won't I do this? Like, what is the fear? Well, the fear of calling somebody you know is that they're going to be like, what are you calling me for? It's rejection, right? It's the fear of being embarrassed. That's why you just got to come up with a way that it works. And if you haven't talked to somebody for a long time, ease into it. Like either get them on the do the database, ask for their email, get them in the automated email campaign on your sync. And then ease into maybe a little note. You know, the just because note that I do. People probably wonder what the heck, but whatever, nobody's ever said it. I just send them a little note and be like, hey, Sherry, hope you're having a great summer. Or I was just thinking about you. Hope you're having a great summer, Sarah. That's it. That's it. If I see something like somebody's done something to their house, like I saw one of my clients painted their house, I sent them a note. Just want to let you know your house looks so good. You've made, so many wonderful changes since you purchased it. Sarah.
I did the same thing the other day with Mary, because she finished painting Putnam.
I saw that.
So
I saw that. Yeah. So the goal, it says success doesn't come from what you do occasionally. It comes from what you do consistently. That did not come from 4DX. However, I did post that on Downtown in the Know. I saw that quote and I was like, this fits perfectly with the 4DX. To achieve a critical goal while living in the middle of a whirlwind is the goal of 4DX. So you get this critical goal, we're gonna get this while all this shit's going on over here, right? Because we're like, it's like keeping basketballs underwater. That's what we do as real estate agents. Like, which one is coming up next? Who's the next one that I've got to push under? So, but being able to calm the whirlwind for, even if it's an hour a day, and do this, because I promise you, if you work your calendar effectively, clients don't know what you're doing. If I have lead gen or 4DX or whatever it is that I do from 9 to 10 every day, and my client calls, I'll either text them. Well, normally I just won't even, when I'm in the middle of that, I don't respond. I turn my phone down for an hour. If I was in the doctor's office, I would not be responding on my phone. Or if I'm, No, I probably would in the doctor's office, but when I'm getting a facial, I won't, because it's very hot. And I don't want to, right? So I will turn my phone off when I get a facial. I turn it off and I put it away. And so, but they don't know where you're at for an hour. We could be showing property. We could, if you're in the middle of a listing presentation, are you gonna stop and be like, oh, hang on a second, I gotta grab this call? There are agents who do that, but I just choose not to because I feel like they need my attention.
Right.
So if they call afterwards or you call them back, they're like, oh, we'd love to see this house. Can we see it tomorrow at 9? I always try, if I have something calendared for that, I'm like, I have an appointment from 9 to 10. Is there any way we can do 10:30? And if they say, oh, they'll usually say yes. If they say no, this is the only time, then move that 9 to 10, but move it where you can. Don't eliminate it, just move it and fill in the blanks that way.
There's a favorite quote that I have looked it on posted. It's, the consistency over the intensity,
Right,
being more consistent
right,
in being.
right. And have you read Atomic Habits?
Yeah.
That's exactly what all of this goes like this. That's why I get so excited over it, because I started with Atomic Habits. It's cool, do some of that. That's great. I love it. Small changes across the board, big results, right? Then we're talking about calendaring, because then we talked about database. This all goes into that. Then we did the 7 levels of execution, which talks about relationships, which all fits into Atomic Habits and 4DX. And then we do 4DX, which is like the mama of all of them. Well, it kind of wraps them all up.
And even the Atomic Habits, I find that I'll go back and review it
Yes,
often because it's a motivational.
yep.
tool, you know?
So I get super excited about it. And honestly, I love the structure and in my life, and I like being strategic about what I do. I don't like to just go, I hope I'm making a new client today. Or I hope I get a new agent. You know, I put the work and the energy into getting these things. And when you do it, it's sweeter because it didn't just happen as a result of luck. It was because of work that it happened. So you got to make a personal commitment. You got to make a personal commitment to yourself and to your business. And this is the other one that this did come out of 4DX. The level of importance you place on your wig, lead measures will determine the results. So the importance you put on your lead measures will determine the results that you get. If you are constantly pushing them aside and overrunning them with your whirlwind, it's not going to work. But if you pull out what your wig is and schedule the time to work on it, you'll be successful. I promise you will. And if you keep a scoreboard, then you can be my testimony of what this works. So that is my sales pitch. Yes.
Well,
That is my last attempt. I'm not that big. We're done with it this week. We're not done. I'm always here for your questions. I'm here to help you. If you want to help with your wig, I will help you. If you want help with your lead measures, I will help you. If you want help with a scoreboard, I will help you. I'm here for you guys, right? I will help you. But you gotta, but you don't have to commit. But it would be awesome. Do you have any questions?
Yes, we have quite a few. Well, a handful. So Jim says he's here, stop talking about him. Leroy asked if the sheets are available. So
Every sheet is gonna be different.
I'll post mine that I made my scoreboard. And if you want one designed for yourself, send me your goals. I will easily remake it. It's basically copy paste. And I will send it
But
to you.
listen, I did a scoreboard for Sharice, Jim, and Cindy. I basically took mine, scribbled out what Jackie did and wrote over it. Who
Nice.
cares?
Yes.
I wrote theirs
Mhm.
because it's not about it looking pretty. Again, it's not about perfect.
Getting
It's about getting something. Like, don't take a week trying to do a scoreboard when you can scribble it on binder paper with a ruler. You know, I mean, seriously, you can and make it work. Okay,
And there's plenty of space to write on the side of mine, so yeah, you could scratch mine out, wrote it to the side.
what's the next?
Then the next one, Misty had asked what we use for our database, and
Sync.
it is Sync, also known as CA California, Central Valley Homes for Sale.com. That is your database. If you are having difficulty getting in, Brittany can send you your link to get you back in there. And for the sheets, that's what I wrote that.
Okay, Jim Carson, is Jim Carson talking? Can he hear me?
Jim, will you talk? Can we unmute you?
I can hear you.
Okay, so Jim, just talk a little bit, like, you and I have had a couple of conversations about what's been happening with your business. And just, do you mind talking a little bit about it?
No, I apologize. I'm in a parking garage in Beverly Hills right now. But my father-in-law's in the hospital. So, but Sarah's correct. I hate the idea of a cheesy pinky ring wearing salesman.
Everybody's so soft rings right now.
But what has been effective so far for me has been building a database, and the people that I've put in my database are simply people that I know on a first name basis, and I have their phone number. From there, I contact them. Hey, I'm updating my database. I've changed offices. Would you mind sharing an email address with me? And then at the end of the text message, I always try and put something personal, like, how's your son Tom doing? I haven't seen him in a long time. Or one of the things that I've said is, hey, my son's a new chiropractor in town if you need him. Just something to spark up a little private conversation.
Oh.
And I have been surprised how many people reach back out and it starts a conversation. Sometimes I say, hey, can I call you real quick? And then it's, we tell jokes, whatever, but it always ends up coming to real estate at some point, and it usually is organic and it usually comes from them. And so I've got 3 deals going right now that have just sort of originated with this thing. And so I'm still finding myself. I'm still figuring out how I'm going to daily plan to reach people. I talked to Sarah. I'm wearing her out, of course. But I'm telling you, the techniques work, and it's not cheesy and it's not contrived. It's just people are happier to talk to you than you think they are, especially if you're not shoving something down their throat. So that's me so far.
Jim and I were talking about David Gonzalez from Merle Stone. You know, he's always been my car. I always buy cars from Merle Stone. Well, some of the ones I don't buy BMW. I have my dealer, my guy up there, but when I do Chevys, I always deal with David Gonzalez. And every once in a while, David Gonzalez will just call me, hey, Sarah, how's it going? We've got good deals. I mean, he's not really like,
He's good.
he's great. And I'm always happy to hear about him because you know how it makes me feel? Wow, David thought about me enough to call me and tell me about a special deal, or the electric vehicle, the electric trucks are out. You know, it's something like that. It doesn't make you feel like, what do you want? It's not spammy, it's caring. Like, you feel flattered. Oh, they thought about me. That is so cool. When I called that investor of mine, he was, oh my gosh, my kids go back to school on, whatever it was, the 14th. Let's go to lunch afterwards. I mean, it's just, and it wasn't any major thing. I wasn't being like, I was like, can we just chat? Another guy beat me to the punch. He was my client. He gets properties, for like, wonderful, he acquires all the properties for him. And knows a ton of people, great guy, I've shown him property. He now is a broker. He passed his license and he's applied to be a broker. And he beat me to the punch. He got something for me in the mail, and I think it was a postcard, one of my postcards, and he called me. And he said, hey, I'm just calling to catch up. How are things going? How you been? Good. Told me what was going on with him. Told me he passed his test, he's gonna be a broker. And then he said, oh, I'm having knee surgery, but after I get well, we want to go to lunch. Yeah. He goes, maybe we can talk about how we can help each other. Right? So it's work on the front end, but once you do it, I promise you guys, it'll work.
Robin Batchman.
because- What was that?
I think it was, Still talking before unmuted.
Okay. Okay, so does anybody have any questions? Now's a good time to ask. No? Does anybody need any help?
If you're overthinking it, just tell Sarah, she'll tell you.
I'll tell you how to overthink it very quickly.
Hey, I got a question, Jim, you still there? Jim,
Not around things everyone, no, he did text, me, he was, oh.
Yeah,
I was gonna ask him if he had a difference between calling, initiating the contact with texting for.
yeah, that's a good question. He'll be back and I would ask him what he does. I gauge it person to person. Like, it just depends the relationship I have with them. So this is what I've been doing, JP. I go Mondays, get on my sync. I start going through my database. I take first 10. Get them out of the way. Now I'm on like the third 10, right? I write them down in a book. This is how my weird mind works. I write it down on my notebook and I know those are the 10 people that because I do 2 a day, 5 days a week. So I know those are the 10 people I'm contacting this week. So then I figure out, okay, what level of comfort do I have with this person? Right? And some of them, it's, I pick up the phone and call. Others, it's, I send them a text. Some of them, it might be, and then it's either gonna be a call or a text. And because I do note separately. But then I figure out, okay, what's the content gonna be? So there's a little bit of work that goes into it. But I honestly know who I'm gonna handle for the week. And if I do them all in one day, I do them all in one day. And sometimes, like if I watch Facebook, like hawk, to see what is going on, because I send out the birthday things to everybody, the birthday notes. I'm sending out sticker cards because for some reason I'm on a roll with people having loved ones dying. And so yeah, so I'm sending, because everybody posts on Facebook, you know, oh, prayers, that's wonderful. But they get so many of them, it gets lost. I go to the Dollar Tree and I buy 170 cards and I just get one and I just put thinking of you and your family, Sarah. That's it. Easy, easy, easy. And I send it out to them. I've got more traction from that than anything else. But I watch, you know, oh, their kid's in a play. I'll comment on Facebook. No, so I kind of am like, it's taking the time to figure out what to do. But then when I do it, I go back in on sync and put in the notes what I did. So I can go and then I see the last time I contacted them. That way I'm not missing anybody. It's strategic. Otherwise,
Started it and yes.
that's why you need an accountability partner, because that's what we do. We start things right. We have high hopes and then it fizzles.
It gets harder to rely on your memory.
Anybody trying to hold it in the memory. And when you write it down and it's somewhere.
Yeah,
you
talk
know
about
what's-
that, Jackie.
I promise you, I screw up because I hold it to
Come
it.
on, preach it, sister. Because Jackie and I have had to have a real heart to heart because there were some things that were happening, not that, because Jackie's wonderful, we all know that she is, but she wasn't like, there was her usual level of excellence. She was missing a couple of things here and there. And so I was like, Jackie, so I said to Jackie, what are 4 things that you cannot delegate, right? What are those things that you cannot delegate? She knew what I was getting at. She goes, it's not the problem. Because I'm like, figure those things and we got to start putting some of that stuff away. She goes, that's not the problem. She goes, I'm not putting it in the calendar. I'm not counting. She's putting it all in here. And then what happens is you forget and then you're like, oh crap, I forgot to do this. And then it's a scramble, right? Whereas if you're writing it, calendaring it, if you know what you're doing, if you put it in sync, nobody's being missed, you're not forgetting, and it brings all of that into accounting, which is the calendaring. Right?
And then you sleep better at night too.
Of course you do, because at night I check my phone, I check my calendar, I know exactly what I'm doing the next day, starting with the gym, going till whatever I'm doing. And then, so I know I'm at peace, I know what I'm doing, I know what time I've got to start heading to Porterville or heading to wherever I'm going. And I don't worry about it. I get up in the morning and I do start writing things in my notebook. Just because I like to write and scratch them off, I start maybe prioritizing, even though they're in my phone, that way I have it right in front of me, it's a visual. So I do that, but calendaring is important. What does this get down to? Calendaring,
So I gotta be.
SOI. And holding it accountable
And keeping track by a scoreboard.
and owning it, you gotta own it. Like, and I know it's hard and it doesn't matter. If you, like Jim said, I'm not gonna make that, it doesn't matter. If you aim for 5 and you do 3, it's better than 0.
Yep.
Okay. I'm not gonna say database again for another week.
We'll just say SOI or C.
SOI.
We'll say SOI or C.
And then go back to that.
So next week, we're gonna talk about, because I know the NAR thing is on everybody's mind, so let's touch on that real quick. So we are already seeing agents putting 0 under compensation. This is how I feel. So I don't know if they're honestly having those conversations already with their sellers, or if they don't understand that it's still okay right now to put the compensation in there.
Yes and no. 'Cause so the thing is, the reason why they're putting the 0 is that they're the ones that are not understanding that you could still put a compensation as of now. However, technically, if your contract's listing agreement was written after the 24th, you don't have it written where your client is really connected to,
Right,
committed to.
right.
So like I put in a 0.25 because my client has verbally committed to it, because until it goes away on the 13th, I don't want people seeing the 0.
So, but this is what my mindset is. If I'm showing a property and it says 0, I am not calling the listing agent to see what the compensation is. I'm showing the house, and if my buyer wants it, I'm gonna write the offer and I'm gonna ask for the compensation that I want. I am not letting that stop me from showing or writing an offer, because what they want is for it to be negotiable. By God, it's gonna be negotiable.
Yeah.
Always
Right?
has.
Right.
Always has been.
Yeah.
Exactly, always has been. So just because look, they have to legally present everything. So if I write an offer and my offer nets that guy the best money, even though he's paying a compensation, which one do you think he's gonna go with?
Exactly.
Probably mine,
People aren't done. They'll do the math.
right?
They will do it.
And it's weird, as you know, I mean, $500 doesn't seem like much to us, but you know, you get 500 more, even if I pay her 10 grand.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
And if I doubt the knowledge of the agent on the other end, I'll go the extra mile and put in my own net sheet, so that way they present and show the number.
And you know that legally you
Yeah.
can present your own
You
offer
can-
to a seller. Legally, you can. If you feel like you are dealing with a really shady, bad agent, you can do it. It's probably gonna be like pulling teeth. It's gonna be a war to get into them, but you can. You can only present. You can't be there while they're presenting others or negotiating, but you can be there. I've never done it, but I guess if you wanted to, you could.
Well, there's a form now that, the seller's agent has to sign that they presented that offer.
That's always been there.
Yeah, so now I've had those incorporated on my, purchase contract. So that they present that offer, so when they return it to me, I knew that it was extended to the seller, because there's a signature.
They
Yeah, that's
call it-
not-
it's on the
that's a good-
RTA.
It is an RPA, yeah, so it's actually the.
The last page,
Yeah,
or the second to last.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So next week, we're gonna talk about listings, talking to our sellers, the listing presentation and the listing agreement. We're gonna go over that.
Mhm.
The next week, we're gonna be buyer's presentation, the RPA. We're gonna talk about, and Wes is gonna chime in on all that too.
And next week on the 13th are MLS updates. It will no longer have the percentage amount that we were offering, but it will have a trigger box of a yes or no if the seller is willing to consider buyer compensation, buyer change of
So
compensation.
that's gonna change.
So it'll change into that on the 13th.
So this is, guys, it is a little bit like the Wild West right now, because nobody really knows what we're dealing with, right? It's just gonna see how, but don't go forward without fear. Just do your best that you can. Do the best with your client. But it's more important now than ever to have a good relationship with your client so they know your value. Right?
A lot of comments I've got is what they've heard on the news.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
And then that's actually a lot of the conversation I have to do. It's like, hey,
So
you know,
you gotta kind of break it down.
it's like,
explain
why
it.
do I have to pay the sales commission?
Yeah.
It's like, when once you explain it to them, after they understand.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna be on the same boat too.
Right.
And they might
and
ask,
if somebody
Yeah.
doesn't need closing costs paid,
yeah,
and they could always ask for, because for some reason sellers are more apt to pay closing costs. They could pay closing costs, that would save their money, they could use that to pay your commission.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's just moving numbers
Yeah.
around, but it's just a
Yeah.
different strategy.
well, one of the comments that my seller did is like, hey, they asked for this much money, but I'm giving them a closing cost, so I'm gonna counter it to a lower closing cost.
Yeah,
So that's
Same.
what happened.
they're just moving money.
Flipping the money around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, so that's it for this week. If you need me, text me, call me. Honestly, yeah, I'm here. I want to help. I spent 4 weeks on this, so if anybody want help with it, I'm happy to do it. And next week, the listing, the week after that, buyers, and that's it. Perfect. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.